November 3rd, 1994, 8:47 p.m. Le Bernardin restaurant in Mayfair. Princess Diana was having a quiet dinner when a wealthy businessman started screaming at a young waiter. The entire restaurant fell silent, everyone pretending not to notice. Then Diana stood up, walked across the dining room, and said 5 words that made him regret everything. "That's enough. Apologize to him." The businessman turned pale when he recognized her, but what happened next shocked everyone in the restaurant. When Diana followed him outside to make sure the waiter was truly okay, she discovered this wasn't just a rude customer having a bad day. This was Marcus Pemberton, someone she knew very well, someone connected to the royal family, and his presence at this specific restaurant on this specific night was no coincidence. The Tuesday evening had started peacefully. Diana had chosen Le Bernardin for its discretion. She was meeting Rosa Martinez, her friend and social worker advisor, to discuss a homeless shelter initiative. For once, she wanted an evening without royal protocol or photographers. She had dressed simply, a charcoal gray sweater and black trousers, minimal jewelry. Inspector Philip Wright, her protection officer, sat at a corner table far enough to give the illusion of privacy. Rosa arrived breathless. "Sorry, Diana. The council is blocking our permit application again." Diana squeezed her hand. "We'll find a way." The restaurant hummed quietly. They were discussing funding when a voice erupted across the room. "This is completely unacceptable. Are you incompetent or just stupid?" The entire restaurant fell silent. A well-dressed man stood at table 7, face red with rage, pointing at a young waiter holding a wine bottle. A small red stain spread across the tablecloth. "I'm terribly sorry, sir," the waiter stammered. "I'll get you a new tablecloth." "A new tablecloth?" The man's voice dripped with contempt. "Do you know how much this suit costs? You've ruined it." Diana could see perhaps 3 drops of wine on his sleeve. "Sir, please, let me get soda water." "Don't touch me." "Where is the manager? I want you fired." Around the restaurant, diners returned to their meals, avoiding eye contact. The British way: don't get involved. Laurent Beaumont, the owner, emerged from the kitchen. "Sir, how can I resolve this?" "By firing this incompetent fool. He shouldn't be working here." The waiter's hands trembled. Diana could see tears forming in his eyes. "We'll cover your dry cleaning, and your meal is complimentary." "That's not good enough. This is what's wrong with this country. Too willing to tolerate mediocrity." Diana felt Rosa's hand on her arm. "Diana, don't." But Diana was already standing. Her heels clicked across the floor, the only sound in the silent room. Inspector Wright half rose, alarmed, but she waved him down. She walked up to table 7 and stood beside the young waiter. "That's enough," Diana said calmly. "Apologize to him." The man turned, ready to continue his tirade. Then he saw who had spoken. The color drained from his face. "Your Royal Highness," he stammered. This is..." Diana recognized him immediately. Marcus Pemberton, a banker she'd met at charity events. "Someone with royal connections." "Miss Pemberton," Diana said, and he flinched. "I believe you owe this young man an apology." His eyes darted around. Everyone was staring now. "Your Royal Highness, you don't understand." He spilled wine. "I understand perfectly. Accidents happen." He apologized immediately. "You chose cruelty and public humiliation." The waiter stood beside her, eyes wide with shock. "Mr. Pemberton, you have a choice. Apologize like a gentleman, or continue this performance. But if you choose the latter, I will ensure every charity I work with knows how you treat people you consider beneath you." The threat hung in the air. Pemberton was trapped. "I apologize," he muttered, not looking at the waiter. "Louder, please, and look at him when you say it." Pemberton's jaw clenched. He turned to the waiter and spoke through gritted teeth. "I apologize for my behavior. It was inappropriate." Diana turned to the waiter. "Is that acceptable to you?" The young man looked stunned. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You don't need to thank me. You deserve respect. Always remember that." She turned back to Pemberton. "I think you should leave now." Pemberton stood frozen, then threw his napkin down and walked out, rigid with anger. Diana noticed he hadn't paid. "Laurent, send his bill to my table. I don't want any consequences for the waiter." "That's not necessary, Your Royal Highness." "I insist." As Diana returned to her table, the restaurant erupted in applause. her cheeks flushed. This wasn't why she'd intervened. That was incredible. Rosa said it was necessary, Diana replied, though her hands shook as she picked up her water. Anthony Rivera, the head waiter, approached. Your Royal Highness, thank you. We've all experienced situations like that, but no one has ever. Everyone deserves dignity. Inspector Wright gave her an exasperated look from his corner. She offered an apologetic shrug. You know this will be in every newspaper tomorrow, Rosa said. Diana sighed. Probably, but I couldn't watch that young man be humiliated. 10 minutes later, the waiter approached nervously. Your Royal Highness, I wanted to thank you properly. No one has ever stood up for me like that. Please, sit for a moment, Diana said, gesturing to the empty space beside Rosa. He perched on the seat edge, uncomfortable. I'm on duty. Just a minute. Up close, she saw he was younger than she'd thought. Maybe 22, with intelligent eyes and calloused hands. How long have you worked here? 6 months. I'm Thomas Chen, studying engineering at Imperial College. I work 3 nights a week for tuition, and to send money to my parents in Hong Kong. My father owns a small electronics shop. My mother is a seamstress. They sacrificed everything for my education. Diana felt her chest tighten. And that man tried to take your job over a few drops of wine. Thomas nodded. It happens more than you'd think. Some customers see waiters as servants who don't matter. We just have to take it. That's not right. Maybe not, but it's reality. People with money and power can treat others however they want. People like me are replaceable. You're not replaceable. You're a person with dreams and a family who loves you. You're building a better future. That's admirable. Thomas looked at her carefully. You really believe that? Of course, because you're Princess Diana. You've never worried about losing a job over spilled wine. Your world is very different from mine. The observation was honest, not malicious. You're right, but I have experienced being treated as if I don't matter, as if I'm just decorative without thoughts or feelings. Maybe it's not the same, but I understand dismissal and disrespect. Thomas studied her. The newspapers say you're different. Tonight you proved it. Laurent appeared. Thomas, we need you back. As Thomas stood, Diana had a sudden impulse. Wait. That man who was shouting, did you recognize him? Thomas paused. Actually, yes. He comes in monthly, always demanding, always complaining. But tonight was worse. He seemed angry before he arrived. The wine was just an excuse. After Thomas left, Diana sat in thoughtful silence. What is it? Rosa asked. Marcus Pemberton. Why was he here tonight? He was having dinner. But this isn't his type of restaurant. I've seen him at events. He prefers traditional British clubs. This place is too modern for his tastes. Rosa frowned. Maybe meeting someone? He was alone. And Thomas said he seemed angry before he sat down. Diana drummed her fingers on the table. What if it wasn't coincidence? You think he came here to cause a scene? I think he came knowing I'd be here. This is one of the few places I can eat without massive security. If someone wanted to test me, embarrass me, create a situation, this would be perfect. Rosa looked alarmed. That's paranoid. I'm becoming a problem, too independent, too outspoken. The charity work I'm doing makes certain people uncomfortable. Inspector Wright appeared, his expression grave. Your Royal Highness, I need to speak with you urgently. Diana's stomach dropped. What is it? Pemberton didn't leave. He's outside on his phone. My palace contact called. He has journalist connections. 3 calls in 10 minutes. Diana felt cold. He's selling the story. There's more. He was picked up by a car, registered to a company serving the royal household. The implications crashed over her. This hadn't been random. Pemberton created this deliberately, knowing Diana would intervene. Now he was spinning the narrative. He wanted me to make a scene. He was counting on it. Rosa shook her head. But why? Control. This is how they work. They create situations where I choose between standing up for what's right and maintaining royal dignity. If I do nothing, I'm complicit. If I intervene, I'm inappropriate and emotional. Either way, I lose. Inspector Wright looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, what would you like to do? Diana thought carefully. She could call the palace, contain the story, issue a statement, the traditional approach, playing their game by their rules, or something different. Philip, contact Emma Bradford at The Guardian. Tell her I want to give an exclusive interview. Not about tonight, but about how we treat service workers in this country. About dignity, respect, and why every job matters. Your Royal Highness, the palace will be furious. Let them be furious. I'm tired of being controlled by fear. Rosa squeezed her hand. Are you more sure than I've been in a long time? They wanted to use tonight to make me look bad. Instead, I'm starting a conversation about something that matters. She stood up, smoothing her sweater. Come on, I want to talk to Thomas again. They found Thomas in the kitchen with Laurent, looking shaken. Thomas, Diana said gently, what happened tonight will be in newspapers tomorrow. Your name might be mentioned. The story might be twisted. How do you feel about that? Thomas looked frightened. Will I lose my job? Not if I have anything to say about it, Laurent said firmly. You did nothing wrong. Diana felt respect for the restaurateur. Thomas, I'm offering you a choice. You can stay out of this entirely. I'll protect your name. Or you can be part of changing the conversation. I'm giving an interview about tonight, focusing on how society treats service workers. If you're willing, you could be interviewed too. Tell your story, talk about what it's really like. Thomas looked overwhelmed. My parents wouldn't want attention. I understand. You don't have to decide now. But Thomas, what happened matters. Not because I was involved, but because it happens daily to people who don't have defenders. Your voice could help change that. As they prepared to leave, Catherine Fletcher, a woman who'd been dining nearby, approached tentatively. Your Royal Highness, I wanted to say, what you did was brave. My daughter waitresses through university. She's been reduced to tears countless times by customers who think they can treat her however they want. Thank you for standing up for people like her. Diana felt tears prickle. Everyone deserves dignity. The drive back to Kensington Palace was quiet. Inspector Wright spoke into his radio in low tones. Diana stared out at London streets, mind racing. They're going to try to destroy you for this, Rosa said quietly. They've been trying for years. At least this time I'm fighting for something that matters. The next morning brought the expected media storm. Tabloids screamed, hysterical Diana causes restaurant scene, and princess's embarrassing outburst over spilled wine. But other stories emerged too. Emma Bradford's article in The Guardian was thoughtful and nuanced. What Princess Diana's restaurant intervention says about class and dignity in modern Britain. Then something Diana hadn't expected, Thomas Chen decided to speak out. His BBC interview describing the reality of working in service industries was being shared widely on social media. His articulate, honest account resonated with millions. Within 48 hours, the narrative had shifted. What the palace tried to frame as inappropriate behavior became a national conversation about respect, dignity, and how society treats its most vulnerable workers. Other service workers began coming forward with their own stories. A hashtag started trending, "Every job matters." Restaurant owners and hotel managers began implementing new policies to protect their staff from abusive customers. Marcus Pemberton tried to sue several newspapers for defamation after they published accounts of his behavior. The lawsuits went nowhere. His reputation, however, was permanently damaged. Several charitable organizations quietly dropped him from their boards. 3 weeks after the incident, Diana received a letter from Thomas Chen. The attention from that night had led to unexpected opportunities. A scholarship fund had been established for service workers seeking higher education. Several restaurants had adopted new policies protecting staff from customer abuse, and Thomas himself had been offered a prestigious internship at an engineering firm whose CEO had been moved by his story. You told me I wasn't replaceable, Thomas wrote. For the first time in my life, I actually believed it. Thank you for seeing me as a person, not just a waiter. Thank you for showing me that dignity isn't determined by social position. And thank you for teaching me that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply refuse to stay silent when you witness injustice. Diana kept that letter in her desk drawer, rereading it whenever she felt discouraged or questioned whether her actions made any real difference. The incident at Le Bernardin became one of the defining moments of Diana's public life. It was referenced in countless articles about her legacy, analyzed by sociologists studying class dynamics in Britain, and cited by labor activists advocating for service worker protections. But for Diana, the most important outcome was much simpler. She had seen someone being treated cruelly, and she had refused to look away. She had used her privilege and position to defend someone who couldn't defend himself, and in doing so, she had helped start a conversation that continued long after that November evening. Years later, when people asked Thomas Chen about the night he met Princess Diana, he would always emphasize the same point. She didn't just defend me in that moment, she treated me like I mattered. She asked about my family, my dreams, my life. To her, I wasn't just a waiter who needed rescuing. I was a person worth knowing. That's what real dignity looks like. Laurent Beaumont kept a photograph from that evening in his office. A candid shot taken by a diner that showed Diana standing beside Thomas, her posture protective, her expression determined. Under the photograph, he had written a quote from that night. Everyone deserves dignity. The story of what happened at Le Bernardin became more than just another anecdote about Princess Diana's compassion. It became a turning point in how Britain talked about class, service, and human dignity. And it all started because one woman refused to stay silent when she witnessed injustice, even though speaking up would cost her dearly. Even though she knew she would be criticized, attacked, and misunderstood. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply stand up and say, "That's enough." Apologize to him. Sometimes the most powerful act of resistance is treating other people like they matter. And sometimes changing the world starts with 5 simple words in a restaurant on a Tuesday night.